Hamas says at least 20,000 people have been killed since Israel launched its onslaught on Gaza. This comes as officials said very serious negotiations are taking place on a new Gaza ceasefire and release of more Israeli hostages. However, prospects for a deal remain uncertain as Hamas insists it will not discuss anything less than a complete end to Israel's offensive in Gaza. Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh visited Egypt on Wednesday for the first time in more than a month for discussions with Egyptian officials mediating another truce. British Foreign Secretary David Cameron will also be in Cairo on Thursday. Islamic Jihad, a smaller Palestinian militant group also holding hostages in Gaza, said its leader would visit Egypt in the coming days as well to discuss a possible end to the conflict. Let's bring in our reporter Adel Al-Mafroui in Cairo. Adel, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us here on Africa Live. Adel, the Hamas leader has been visiting Cairo over the Gaza conflict. What's coming out of this, and what do we know so far about the visit by the UK's Foreign Secretary David Cameron?
Well, let me start first with the UK's Foreign Minister, David Cameron, who has just concluded his visit to Cairo after holding a press conference with the Egyptian Foreign Minister, Sameh Shoukry. Earlier, he sat and discussed the situation in Gaza with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Basically, the focus has been on how to push forward efforts for a sustainable ceasefire, and how also to secure the release of all hostages still kept in Gaza by Hamas since the October 7th attack. In general, there seems to be cooperation between Egypt and the UK in that regard, but nothing substantial in terms of progress in the negotiations have been announced during the press conference, specifically with, as you've mentioned, the presence of Hamas's leader, Ismail Haniyeh, here in Cairo, also to continue talks about the same issue. It's the second visit by Ismail Haniyeh to the Egyptian capital since the crisis broke out on October 7th. The purpose is to push forward for finally ending these cycles of violence and securing at least that there is more aid going into Gaza through the UN organizations and other trusted international organizations. This is according to the Egyptian Foreign Minister, to guarantee that all that enters Gaza is only utilized for civilian aid purposes rather than being abused or used in any other difference that may support the attacks on Israel. That's some of the accusations that maybe Israel has been concerned about. Overall, this comes as Egypt is trying to escalate its coordination with regional and international powers, hopefully to push for talks. As you've said, they have been described as serious talks, especially by US President Joe Biden. However, there seems to be no expectation of a deal to be brokered just yet, or at least soon, as Hamas also insisted no hostages will be released unless there is a full cessation of hostilities. Also, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appears to be determined to continue this military operation and what he describes as effort to eradicate Hamas completely.
All right, Adel, Islamic Jihad also says its leader is expected to visit Egypt in the coming days. How are these efforts expected to impact the ongoing conflict?
Well, definitely Cairo has been on continuous talks with all the powerful armed groups in Gaza, because brokering a ceasefire agreement doesn't only mean the commitment of Hamas alone. Islamic Jihad is also the second biggest to Qassam brigades, that is the armed group for Hamas management of Gaza. So together, Egypt wants to make sure that whatever agreement there is, both these groups are on the same page, and that there is coordination so that whenever there is a hope or terms to be discussed and negotiated, both will be part of that. There are hostages by the two groups held in Gaza until now. Some of them, as David Cameron highlighted today in Cairo, some of them are British, and therefore the coordination for their exit is quite substantial for the success of any possible breakthrough in having another ceasefire agreement between the Israelis and the Palestinians in Gaza.